All right, let's come back. I'm going to call on Kimberly. Tell me one of them that you know works. Hiram, you're going to do the same, and then we'll go to Magdalene and to Brenda. So, Hiram, give me one that works. Or that you think works.
Number 4.
Number 4? Let's look at number 4. Which property is number 4, guys? This is just the quotient property, so that works. Awesome. Kimberly, give me another one. Which one? Which property is that? That's the product property, just using some different letters. So, yep, that's correct. Magdalene.
6.
Good. Which property is that?
Power.
That is the power property. Got the power. Okay, and then Brenda, any guesses? Last one that's true. And 8 is correct. Good job. The other 4 are false. Okay? If you have questions on why they're false, come talk to me after. We're going to kind of hustle now just to get through this last little bit here, okay? Now, we talked about the change of base formula last time, right? Like if I said, hey, what's log base 3 of 16? You'd say, oh, just go math up, and I got it, right? What if you don't have math up? Like a lot of you guys have calculators that don't have math up. What this says is just do common log of 16 over common log 3. Or you could do natural log 16 over natural log 3. And that's how you would get it using a basic scientific calculator. So I'd rewrite this. Let's do this one as an ln 16 over ln 3. And then I could figure out what that is as a decimal on my calculator, okay? Or you can use a common log. It doesn't matter. It'll give you the same answer. That's called the change of base formula. Okay, so Josh Wood, what about on C? How could I write that out using the change of base formula?
Log 2 over log 1/2.
There you go. All right, that says 1/2 there. You guys okay with that? Let's keep it going. So the last thing we needed to do is talk about inverses and graphing. In general, when you're trying to find the inverse of two equations, let's go back. So remember last time I showed you the inverted photograph? We said, how do you invert a photograph? And you said, what did you switch? The light and the dark. When you're doing an inverse for a function, what are you switching? The x and the y. So your first step is you're going to be switching x and y. And then your second step is you're going to solve for y. That's just in general, anytime you're trying to find an inverse, you switch x and y, and then you solve for y. Okay? Now what we're going to be doing here, let's try finding the inverse of y equals log base 3 of x. So let's start by switching x and y. I'm going to write that as x equals log base 3 of y. Okay? When I do that, I want to solve for y. The problem is, where is y? It's inside of the logarithm. How do you undo a logarithm? Can I just subtract a log or divide by a log? And I can. But I can rewrite this using circle of life. How would we rewrite this using circle of life? There you go. 3 to the x is equal to y. There's our circle, right? Well, what you've just found here is the inverse we've solved for y. The inverse of log base 3 of x is 3 to the x. All right? So this is, and usually when we write an inverse, we put a little -1 as the exponent. Say, if y is the original function, then the inverse is 3 to the x. Okay, well, if that's true, what is going to be the inverse of log base 7 of x? Just 7 to the x, right? What's the inverse of log base 2 of x? I don't think you guys are getting this with me. Okay, So the inverse of log base 3 to the x, 3 of x is 3 to the x. What if I change this to be log base 5 of x? What's the inverse of that going to be? 5 to the x. What's the inverse of log base 20 to the x? 20 to the x. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get you to see there. All right? Now, what if I have a question like this? Okay, let's do this one real quick. I'm going to find the inverse. X equals log base 6 of y plus 2. So I switch x and y. Now I want to solve for y. It's inside a log, so I'm going to rewrite it. So Peyton, how would I rewrite this as an exponential? Yep, that's right on. So 6 to the x is equal to y plus 2. And then if I want to solve for y, what would I do? Just subtract 2. So I get 6 to the x minus 2, that's equal to y. And that is going to be the inverse of your original equation, y equals log base 6 of x. Okay, now the reason why I'm going over this is because graphing logarithms isn't something I like doing very much. But I do know how to graph exponentials. We've talked about graphing exponentials before, right? Well, since they're inverses, what I like to do is I graph the inverse, and then I get back to the original by just switching points. So, let me show you what I mean. If I was graphing 10 to the, let's say someone said, let's graph just common log x, which is log base what? What's the inverse of that? 10 to the x. You graph 10 to the x? What's 10 to the 0? What's 10 to the 1? And this has a horizontal asymptote at 0. Well, now just switch those points. Instead of 0, 1, you get switch 1, 0. Instead of 1, 10, switch, you get 10, 1. Instead of y equals 0, what are you going to have? X equals 0. You just switch the x and the y, right? So let's do a practice problem. Here's another example. Let's say you were asked to graph y equals log base 3 of x. So you don't have to graph this or do anything, just watch me real quick. I don't know how to graph log base 3 of x, but could I graph its inverse? What's the inverse of log base 3 of x? 3 to the x. Can you graph that? 3 to the 0 is 1, 3 to the 1 is 3, 3 squared is 9, 3 cubed is 27. What do I do with each of these points now? Switch them. Instead of y equals 0, we have x equals 0, and you just graph the logarithm. So it's not too bad. So what are your steps? Step 1, you're going to find and graph the inverse. Step 2, you just flip it over the line. And then connect the dots, you've got your graph. Let me show you an example, and then we'll call that good for today, okay? So I want to graph log base 2 of x. What is the inverse of log base 2 of x? So the inverse is 2 to the x. Give me a couple of key points for 2 to the x. 0, 1. 1, 2. Give me another one. 2, 2, 4. Okay? So this is going to be 2 to the x. Now what am I going to do with those key points to get the inverse? Instead of 0, 1, I go 1, 2. Instead of 0, 1, I go 1, 0. Instead of 1, 2, 2, 1. Instead of 2, 4, I go 4, 2. And instead of a horizontal asymptote, we get a vertical asymptote. And so this is going to be log base 2 of x. And that's how you graph a logarithm. You find the inverse, you do that. All right, now I'm going to hand out your assignment. If you guys need help and you're like, Solberg, I don't get it, then please come in today after school. Who already got one of these? Some, you already have one? Okay. I only made enough for everyone to get one, so then I want to make sure I don't run out. Who has one? Allie does. So enjoy your weekend, do your homework, and if you need help, email me. Go watch the musical. It's a lot of fun. And thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. I'll see you on Monday.